Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girvaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Thira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री श्री राधा माधव भगवान की जय। श्री श्री राधा गोकुलानंद भगवान की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वं पदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपत्कमलं श्रीगुरन् वैष्णवाश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रतं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सर्वभूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुतदेवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So today the verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 28 and 29. A very popular, very beautiful verse. Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakha Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudevam Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharma Vasudeva Paragati Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakha Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharma Vasudeva Paragati Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakha Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharma Vasudeva Paragati. So somebody would read that. Mataji.
Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakaha.
So it's not. So it says here, we have to get reconnected. So reconnection to Krishna is important. So that is what we are being actually, this Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, they are teaching us to get reconnect to the Supreme Lord. That is the sum and substance of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita, same theory is confirmed by the Lord in his own words. The ultimate purpose of the Vedas to know him only. All the revealed scriptures are prepared by the Lord through his incarnation in the body of Srila Vyasadeva, just to remind the fallen souls conditioned by material nature of Sri Krishna. So Prabhupada writes here, the fallen souls that have been conditioned by material nature, that material nature of Sri Krishna. So material nature is also, he is the cause of that also. He's made that. And we are illusioned in that because he wants it to be. We get illusion and then we actually are on our own and we have to search for that path on our own. Our journey is our own journey. So Krishna wants us to come to him through our own surrender. It should be lovingly, it should be done from our own bottom, it's from our own end. So here it says the revealed scriptures are prepared by the Lord. All these revealed scriptures have been prepared by the Lord. He says in the Chaturshloki Gita, in the last verse, he completely clearly says, Tesham ivanu kampartam aham agyanam jamtama. I am the one who will actually, what I will do is, I'll take off all ignorance out of your heart and I'll give you the knowledge in your heart. He says, I am the one. So here Prabhupada clearly mentions this, that he is the one who has prepared all these revealed scriptures through the incarnations, through his incarnations. And the literary incarnation is Srila Vyasadeva. Just to remind the fallen souls, just to remind us that we should go back, we should read them, we should go in deep into them. I know Prabhupada has taken a lot of pains, a lot of hardships, a lot of struggle to give these cantos to us, to give these beautiful commentaries to us. And if we do not read them, then we will be at a great loss. We will be at a great loss, will not get the mercy what Krishna is talking about. Krishna says, I give you the mercy. But when does that mercy comes? When we make an effort. And like Vyasadeva, he gave these these scriptures. And then whose commentaries we are reading? That's Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada again is an incarnation. He's a Shaktavesha avatar for us. He has been empowered to give this beautiful commentaries to us, to make it easy for us to understand these. And he says, no demigod can award freedom from material bondage. No demigod, no Devi Devta can release us from this bondage. That is absolutely correct. Because I was reading a scripture other day and it says people go to Bhavani, people go to Durga, and then they say Durga actually hides away when you ask for mukti, when you ask for moksha, when you ask that you want to be released from bondage, she hides away. She cannot give. So people just waste their time, waste their energy while running after her for material things. So it says that no demigod can award freedom from material bondage. That is the verdict of all Vedic literatures. Impersonalists who have no information of the personality of Godhead minimize the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord and put him on equal footing with all other living beings. And for this act, such impersonalists get freedom from material bondage only with great difficulty. They can surrender unto him only after many, many births in the culture of transcendental knowledge. So all have to surrender to him. So this, what I wanted to read was where Prabhupada says that there are different kinds of bodies within this material world. Just like ant's body, fly's body, my body. And then he says, so God's body is not like that. It is eternal. Here in this material world, we can possess a body which may exist for millions of years, but does not mean it is eternal. It is not eternal. But God's body is eternal. Therefore, in the Vedic language, when it is said Nirakar or impersonal we say, that is Nirakar, formless, who has no form. It does not mean that God has no form. He has got form, but his form is different from this form upon which you have got experience. So his form is different to what the form we have. So here it says here, but those who actually see him as a formless, they will have to actually surrender one day. May it be after many births. So it may be after many, many births, but we will have to surrender. That's the ultimate. If we really want to release ourselves from this cycle of birth and death, we have to surrender to the Supreme Lord. We have to surrender to this transcendental knowledge. One may argue that the Vedic activities are based on sacrificial ceremonies. So here Krishna again says, Vasudeva Paramakha. So Makha is the Vedic sacrifices performed. So one may argue that the Vedic activities are based on sacrificial ceremonies. That is true. But all such sacrifices are also meant for realizing the truth about Vasudeva. So all these homas, all these sacrifices, fire sacrifices, whatever we do, they are actually meant to be done to get to the Supreme Lord, to reach out to him. That is for his satisfaction all the yajnas are done. Another name of Vasudeva is Yajna. And in the Bhagavad Gita it is clearly stated that all yajnas and activities are to be conducted for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, the Yajna Purusha. He is the Yajna Purusha, he is Yajna, he is Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the case also with the yoga system. So everything, Krishna has made it so clear here. This verse is actually so important when we go out in the material world. It's very important when the people put up so many arguments. You can always quote this verse. That Vasudev Paraveda, Vasudev Paramakha, Vasudev Para Yoga. All kinds of yoga, whether it's Hatha Yoga, all kinds of Dhyana Yoga, all yogas are actually meant for the reaching out to the Supreme Personality. Yoga means to get into touch with the Supreme Lord. Yoga actually is a word that means, Prabhupada mentions, that is the word that means that you get unified, you get connected. So yoga shabd, yoga word in Hindi, actually Sanskrit, it means that. The connection, you get connected. So here Prabhupada clearly mentions, this is the case also with the yoga systems. Yoga means to get into touch with the Supreme Lord. The process, however, includes several bodily features such as asanas, dhyana, pranayama and meditation. And all of them are meant for concentrating upon the localized aspect of Vasudeva, represented as Paramatma. Paramatma realization is but a partial realization of Vasudeva. So we all know, Krishna says, I am in your heart as the Paramatma. So Paramatma is a partial, Prabhupada mentions, it's a partial realization, it's not complete Krishna himself. So it's a partial realization of Vasudeva. And if one is successful in that attempt, one realizes Vasudeva in full. If you are conscious of your Paramatma in your heart and you actually purify your heart, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, so that is the process how we purify our heart. If you purify your heart, then what happens? Then you will have the full realization of Vasudeva. But by ill luck, most yogis are stranded by the power of mysticism and achieved through the bodily process. Ill-fated yogis are given a chance in the next birth by being placed in the families of good learned brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants in order to execute the unfinished task of Vasudeva realization. So Krishna clearly tells in the Bhagavad Gita, where does those take birth who are unsuccessful in one lifetime to achieve me? So Prabhupada mentions these yogis, they are trying to get connected to Krishna, but their process is not perfect. So what happens? In their another lifetime, they take birth as in good families, rich families, where the task was incomplete, they had to complete it. Or they are born in good Brahmana families where they get the knowledge. So these are called the ill-fated yogis. And if such fortunate Brahmanas and sons of rich men properly utilize the chance, they can easily realize Vasudeva by good association with saintly persons. So if we take birth in a rich family or in a learned family, we can only go back to Godhead if we get a chance and we utilize that chance, the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. If we get that as chance, we can easily, by the association of saintly persons, can go back to Godhead. Unfortunately, such preferred persons are captivated again by material wealth and honor, and thus they practically forget the aim of life. So two things that actually hamper, they impede our progress, spiritual progress. That is the hankering for material wealth and honor. Hankering for honor. I remember so well when I was going online, preaching started in the COVID times, and it was really booming up. People were so scared and they were coming up to the classes, attending the classes, and they were very much connected, and there were hundreds and lakhs of views coming up on the YouTube or on the Facebook. So I was very thrilled, and I called up Guru Maharaj, and I used to report him since the day one I've been preaching. So I would call him up and tell him, Guru Maharaj, I had so many views this evening or this morning. And he would be unaffected. He was very happy, of course. He said, it's very nice you're doing it. But then he never wanted me to hanker for any honor or this kind of fame. He immediately, one day I remember, he said, the first time only when I told him, the next time I never told him I had hundreds of views or lakhs of views. He said immediately, Radhika Kripa, you want to be a celebrity or a devotee? I said, Guru Maharaj, a devotee, never a celebrity. So that was the end of my hankering for any kind of honor like that. He put a full stop to that. So that is what a saintly person is. He always checks you. A guru is that who always keeps a check on you. And he simply said that, and that line actually always echoes in my mind. That's always in my mind whenever I'm thrilled by any of my views coming up, and I remember, yes, Guru Maharaj said, words were that, I don't want to be a celebrity, I want to be a devotee. So because they practically forget the aim of life. He never wanted me to forget the aim of life. He wanted me to be always there. So that's for all of us. Prabhupada wants us to be there. This is also so for the culture of knowledge. According to Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 items in culturing knowledge. By such culture of knowledge, one becomes gradually prideless, devoid of vanity, non-violent, forbearing, simple, devoted to the great spiritual master, and self-controlled. So this is the culture of knowledge. If Bhagavad Gita, you take up to Bhagavad Gita, you take up to these Vedic scriptures. So by such culture of knowledge, one becomes, because this knowledge makes us what? It makes us devoid of vanity. It makes us prideless. If it's not helping us to become prideless, then we are actually not taking the knowledge. We are not serious about it. We are not actually taking the words as they are. We are simply in our own world. We might be reading this, but we are not imbibing this. So the real Bhagavatam is when we imbibe it. Bhagavad Gita is actually, it is meant to put into action. Bhagavad Gita doesn't actually help until you put it into action. It's hearing plus implementing. That's important. So it's implementing brings your life simple. You become devoted to the great spiritual master. So if you are actually focusing on this knowledge, you got to become devoted to the spiritual master. And self-controlled. By culture of knowledge, one becomes unattached to earth and home and becomes conscious of the miseries due to death, birth, old age and disease. So this is actually, that happens. By this knowledge, one becomes unattached to earth and home and becomes conscious, and he becomes conscious of the miseries around that are coming up due to the cycle of birth and death. And the four things Krishna says, Janam Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, because of old age and because of disease. And all culture of knowledge culminates in devotional service to the personality of Godhead. So this all culture of knowledge, what does it actually end up? Where it culminates? It culminates into the service of the personality of Godhead. If you are not ready to do the devotional service to the personality of Godhead, what is the use of all this knowledge that we are gaining? So this knowledge it has to end up there. That's what it says here. Vasudev Param Jnanam. So Vasudev is the Param Jnanam. He is the topmost knowledge. The topmost knowledge is the knowledge of Krishna. So therefore, Vasudev is the ultimate aim in culturing all different branches of knowledge. Culture of knowledge leading one to the transcendental plane of meeting Vasudev is real knowledge. So this culture of knowledge means that leads us to transcendental. It leads us to transcendental plane. That is, it leads us to beyond the three modes of material nature that we talked the other day. So transcendental means you transcend the three modes of material nature. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Nastir buddhir yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha vata shantira shantasya kuta sukham. You are hankering for peace and happiness, but how will you get it? Unless you get connected to me, unless you take my knowledge, unless you work upon my knowledge. So that is the real knowledge. Na astir buddhir yuktasya. So you get connected to my knowledge. Shantasya kuta sukham. Without peace, there cannot be happiness. If your mind is not peaceful, there cannot be happiness. That happiness is very temporary, that comes out of the temporary things, material things. But the real happiness comes when you actually, this knowledge you implement in your life. And physical knowledge in its various branches is condemned in Bhagavad Gita as ajnana, or the opposite of real knowledge. So the material knowledge that we gain in the schools and colleges, that is actually the opposite of the real knowledge. It is condemned. or it is called a jnana. The ultimate aim of physical knowledge is to satisfy the senses, which means prolongation of the term of material existence. So what does that knowledge actually aims at? It aims at prolonging the material existence, because we hanker for material things more when we get the knowledge, material knowledge. So material knowledge is not meant, actually it will not help us in the spiritual world. The spiritual knowledge helps us. The ultimate aim of physical knowledge is to satisfy the senses. The senses are satisfied. That knowledge is only meant to satisfy our senses. But so prolonging the miserable life of material existence is nuisance. So devotees do not want to prolong their material life, the miserable life of the material existence. So prolonging this, that knowledge will help in prolonging this. But spiritual knowledge keeps a check on our material, like what we say, material sense enjoyment. So it says here, but the same physical knowledge leading to the way of spiritual understanding helps one to end the miserable life. If you use that material knowledge, Prabhupada says, the same physical knowledge leads your way to the spiritual understanding, helps one to end the miserable life of physical existence and to begin the life of spiritual existence on the plane of Vasudeva. So until we go to the plane of Vasudeva, that is the transcendental knowledge, until we try to reach out to the Vasudeva state of mind, we are not actually going back to Godhead. We will not be released from the miseries of this world. The same applies to all kinds of austerity. Krishna, it says here, Vasudeva param tapaha. Vasudeva is the param tapaha. Tapaha means tapasya, austerities. So tapasya means voluntary acceptance of bodily pains to achieve some higher end of life, where austerities are performed to attain some higher goal in life. Ravana and Hiranyakashipu underwent a severe type of bodily torture to achieve the end of sense gratification. Other day we just celebrated Narsingh Chaturthi. So we actually remember the story, the katha of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu performed austerities. But that austerity was not meant to attain the Vasudeva. It was meant to prolong his material existence. He wanted to become eternal. He wanted to become Vishnu. So sometimes modern politicians also undergo severe types of austerities to achieve a political end. So sometimes the politicians even undergo some kinds of austerities, and then they bluff whom they are ruling, they bluff their people around, and they perform these austerities to achieve political ends. They go on hunger strike, they go on some kind of other kinds of things where they want to project themselves as very glorious. So they are not for Krishna. So all the actually tapasya is one should accept voluntarily bodily inconvenience for the sake of knowing Vasudeva, because that is the way of real austerities. So the real austerity is when you actually take some kind of inconvenience on your body to get connected to Krishna, like coming for Mangalarti, getting early in the morning, following the 4 regulative principles. These are the austerities that are voluntarily accepted for what? To achieve Vasudeva. So the austerities that are performed, like going on a parikrama, going on a Govardhan parikram, going on the Vrindavan parikram, going for Mayapur parikram. So these all are actually austerities that help us to get closer to Krishna. And they are meant to actually, for us to understand that they are meant for getting close to Krishna, that are meant for knowing Krishna, achieve Krishna. Otherwise, all forms of austerities are classified as modes of passion and ignorance. But these austerities, I'm talking, going for Vrindavan parikram or Govardhan parikram, it's not ultimate in itself. Because I know once we were doing a parikram with Guru Maharaj, the Govardhan parikram, and what happened, a person was doing Dandavati. He was from a temple, I won't name it. He was from one temple in India, and he was doing Dandavati, and everybody was very fascinated. They were coming to Guru Maharaj and saying, Maharaj, that person, that devotee is doing Dandavati, he's there, he wants to seek your blessings. And we were just passing, and he was doing Dandavati. Guru Maharaj halted, he stopped there, and we were all accompanying him, we were there. And Guru Maharaj just smiled at him. He was not at all impressed by his Dandavati. Not at all. Everybody was highly impressed, talking great things about him. And Guru Maharaj looked at him and said, when I give you a service in the temple, you never accept it. What's the use of this Dandavati? And we were all stunned. We watched it. So, Guru Maharaj clearly mentioned, if you do service nicely, if you do follow the rules and regulations what Srila Prabhupada has laid down, and do these services nicely, so that is the real Dandavati. That is the real Govardhan Parikram. That is the real austerity. So these, just doing austerities it's not complete in itself. Doing austerities to follow the Srila Prabhupada's teachings and giving service to ISKCON, that is the real parikram, that is the real austerity. That's what we all have learned. So it says here, these are bodily inconveniences given for Vasudeva. So passion and ignorance cannot end the miseries of life. So sometimes these parikrams and all austerity performing also become like a mode, it goes into mode of passion. Other day I remember Prabhuji asking this question, when these are, what happens if this is also actually, it's connected to mode of passion. Our services become mode of passion, where we are actually looking for adulation, we are looking for name and fame. So that happens. This is actually, they should not be performed in the mode of passion, because then we go away from Krishna, rather getting closer to Krishna. Superficially, it may mean that we are doing a service, but Krishna is not accepting that service because it has got a tinge of mode of passion in it. So therefore, Prabhupada says here, passion and ignorance cannot end the miseries of life. Only the mode of goodness can mitigate the threefold miseries of life. Vasudeva and Devaki, the so-called father and mother of Lord Krishna, underwent penances to get Vasudeva as their son. Lord Shri Krishna is the father of all living beings. Therefore, he is the original living being of all other living beings. He is the original eternal enjoyer amongst all other enjoyers. So what I'm reading from Prabhupada here in this passage, he clearly mentions that creation, he says, Krishna says, like Supreme Lord says, let's create, and the creation comes. So one who is above creation only can say, let's create. One who is already under, he cannot create a creation where he is under creation himself. So one who is above creation can say, let's create. So therefore he is the original living being. He is the creator. He says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, everything is coming from me. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. So even Brahmaji proclaims that. So therefore he is the original living being of all other living beings. He is the original eternal enjoyer amongst all other enjoyers. And therefore if any austerities have to be done, they must be done to achieve the end of knowledge, Vasudeva. So here it says clearly, Vasudev Jnanam, Vasudev Param Jnanam, Vasudev Param Tapa, Vasudev Paro Dharmo. Vasudeva is the original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. As explained before, the original personality of Godhead expands himself by innumerable forms. Such expansion of forms is made possible by his various energies. His energies are multifarious, and his internal energies are superior and external energies are inferior in quality. They are explained in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4 to 6 as the para and apara prakritis. So Krishna's internal energies are superior. So we always say Radharani, Bhakti, that is the internal, that are superior energies. The Vairanga Shakti, that's the external energies, they are inferior. So Krishna is actually the goal of life, the ultimate goal of life. So his expansions of various forms which take place via the internal energies are superior forms, whereas the expansions which take place via the external energies are inferior forms. The living entities are also his expansions. The living entities who are explained by his internal potency are eternally liberated persons. So Krishna has three energies, we all know. That is the internal, external and the marginal potency. So we are the marginal potency. So living beings are also his energy. We are also his energy. But we are also his expansions. The living entities who are expanded by his internal potency are eternal, eternally liberated persons, whereas those who are expanded in terms of material energies are eternally conditioned souls. Therefore, all culture of knowledge, austerities, sacrifice, activities should be aimed at changing the quality of the influence that is acting upon us. So, quality of the influence that is acting upon us, that is through the modes of material nature. This is acting upon us. So, influence. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter explains how we have to cut through the action and reaction chain. Actually, Bhagavad Gita teaches us that. How do we cut through the action-reaction chain? Every action has got a reaction. And every reaction is again, you give when a reaction to it, a karma is performed. An action happens. So how do we cut that chain through? And then we can cut through the chain of cycle of birth and death. So here it says here, Prabhupada mentions, the influence that is actually taking place due to them, due to the influence of the material mode of natures. I hope I'm not going very fast actually, the purport was very long. It's very, still many verse, it's already 9. Should we stop here? 2-3 paras are still left. It's a huge purport, 2 shlokas. So should we take question answers?
Sure, we can do that. We can also pick up on that tomorrow on the purport. It's a long purport, right?
Yeah. So let's take the question answers.
Yes.
Yes. So you want to check here? Anybody has a question here? Yes, Prabhu.
I just find it very interesting how austerity leads to connecting with
The
Krishna,
Supreme Lord.
Vasudeva, right? And how it is that, because everybody's going through austerity, right? But there are certain kinds of austerity that connect us to, even just like the inconvenience of getting up in the morning or doing the parikrama. And I'm just wondering if you can speak about that, like why that's an important thing, like why is that in particular pleasing to Krishna?
Yes.
It's not like we see Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj
Performing austerities.
You know what I mean?
They performed austerities to get Krishna in their courtyard. They did the highest form of austerity they have performed, that's why Krishna comes there. But then for us, the austerities, actually some people think only the austerities are ultimate in themselves. Oh, I get up early in the morning. That is, I'm doing so much for Krishna. We forget the main aim and we focus on the austerity. So austerity is being performed to actually enhance the love for him. The austerity is meant to purify us. The austerity is not meant for us to go into mode of passion, saying, oh, I am the doer, I am doing it. Once I was again reading a story where a person, a small boy, he comes for the Brahmurta time with his grandfather. He comes for the Mangalarti, he gets up early in the morning, he comes there, his grandfather brings him. And while going back home, he sees many people older to him are still sleeping. They are still sleeping in their courtyards. They are enjoying the morning hours, sleeping. So he tells his grandfather, I am superior to them. See, I attend the Mangalarti. I went with you and I have been actually, look at them. They are still sleeping. He is so much older to me. He's like 40s and 50s, and I'm such a young boy, just in my teens. I went for Mangalarti with you, and I'm coming on my weekends with you. And his grandfather immediately snubbed him. He said, you have lost all what you would have gained from your austerity. You have lost all that. Just being in pride that these are inferior to me and I'm superior to them. So he snubbed him immediately. If you are performing in austerity, if you are going for Mangalarti, just remain humble. Don't ever praise about yourself, oh, I am attending the Mangalarti. I am doing this austerity. I have done so many parikrams. I have done this. immediately all the result that had to come to you because of that austerity will be lost. You will not gain it. Sometimes you say, oh, I'm very humble. I don't speak anything to anybody. I don't answer back. But then that should show in our behavior, not in what I say for myself. It should actually, my behavior should speak for me, not me should speak for it. So that's a great learning I've achieved during all these years. When we are in neophyte devotees, we actually want to like a daughter or a son, we want to go ahead and speak about it to our glories, to others, and then only to the authorities. I've learned from Guru Maharaj that only to the authority you should speak about it, and let others the qualities will reveal themselves to them, others. So that's by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, that the mercy of the Guru will actually reveal everything. So we should not endeavor on our own, that I am the one. So the austerities are performed actually to reach out to the Supreme Lord. So that happens with the Vaishnava mercy. We say that mercy will flow to us. So yes, the mercy, when we are humble, mercy will come. Surely it will come. Guru takes a lot of tests. One line he would ask you and everything is revealed to him. He knows everything about you. Just one answer of yours will reveal everything. So that is how I have learned that austerities are not performed just for the sake of austerity, or they are performed just for the... Austerity cannot take us to Krishna. Humility will take us to Krishna. Austerity will bring humility. So that is the understanding. For neophyte devotees is good. We put the more emphasis on the austerity, so they are very full of enthusiasm to perform the austerity. And ultimately one day these austerities will bring humility in them. Because the association is going to matter. The seniors will give the association and that will happen. So that is how humility, all these austerities, everything is done to achieve humility. That's why to attain, it says, Prabhupada mentions in the purport clearly, all this knowledge, these lines are very important, that by such culture of knowledge one becomes gradually prideless. One becomes devoid of vanity, non-violent. So non-violent doesn't mean he stops picking up knives and fighting with others he was. There is non-violence means with the words also. Not the violent words. We become very humble, the sweet words. Always we have to speak very sweetly and friendly. Whether we are talking to anyone who is not wishing us good even, we have to be nice to them. We have to actually be nice and friendly. If only we cannot be over friendly, we can just be to Hare Krishna and sweet to them, that's all. And devoted to great spiritual master and self-controlled and simple. So these all Prabhupada is mentioning, this is important. And that's what is the learning of a devotee. And it says here, gradually. So first day only coming to the temple we cannot think. But of course when we have been here for a longer time, we should reflect to our actions that they should be nice. They should be actually what Prabhupada is asking for. They should be like that. I hope I've answered. Thank you, Prabhu, for asking. Yeah, when you asked, actually, when a question is asked, I don't know, we also get enlightened. The speaker, whosoever sits on the Vyasasana, I know all of you sit, and then we know that helps us also to get the answers. Vyasadeva has got some power here. He gives us. So, there's no question here. I don't know how it is.
It's on. They can hear you.
Haribol, is there anybody who wants to ask anything? I'll just open up the chat. Yeah. Prabhu, you don't have any question today? Haribol.
You're mentioning about Gyan and Vigyan. That's what I was
Yeah, the material knowledge.
Knowing, just reading and gaining knowledge is not this thing. Always remember, knowing but not following is as
Yeah.
not knowing. But how to tell this thing to the people? Everybody sometimes come over, I read 5 times the Bhagavad Gita and all.
That's why I said don't take it to mode of passion. Keep it to the mode of goodness. We might have read many times, and sometimes without reading, Krishna says, I keep it in your heart. Without reading even, you will know everything what's written inside. So that also happens. That's the mercy of the Vaishnavas. one may know it. So because it doesn't mean that we have read, but yes, a neophyte devotee should read it again and again if he's not getting to understand it. He should read again and again and again. And also seek the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Because without the mercy, nothing comes. That's what I have experienced in life. Without the mercy, one would never get what really one wants. So mercy of a pure Vaishnava, pure devotee of the Lord is very, very important. It's not, we may say, oh, I can remain home and read, I can just close the doors and keep on reading. That won't help us. Unless we come in the association of devotees. There we learn humility. There we learn how to be together. And then in togetherness, lots of things will come up. So when things come up, we should actually try to solve them out, resolve them. And all these qualities will be tested then. Alone we are sitting at home, we cannot give a test to ourselves. A test comes when we are among people, when we are among the congregation, when we are among the association. Then that is the real test. How you can be with them and not conflicting with them, and you're actually focused at your ultimate aim. Our ultimate aim is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So then for Vasudeva we can take all kinds of austerity. So this is also austerity, tolerating someone whom we don't like. We have to tolerate them because that is their aim is also Krishna. So we tolerate them. So this actually, that is the strong faith in the spiritual master also comes then when we are in the association of the devotees. So when we are in the association, there will be those who are very surrendered, there will be some who are not at all surrendered, some who are trying to surrender. So that is how the inspiration comes when we are together. So this is very important for us. And then we take this knowledge and then the knowledge has to be implemented. Unless we implement, nothing will happen. Just go reading will not take us anywhere. We'll forget also. Yes, there is another class can happen on these answers. So we end the session here. I don't think so anybody has asked. So thank you everybody.
Can they hear us?
I don't know, Prabhuji will ask them.
Yes.
How many are there, Prabhuji?
1, 2, 3,
What do you
4,
think?
5,
The next page. Yeah.
6, 7,
The
8,
total
9.
comes on the participants, no? Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So
9.
nobody's asking any question. We end the session then. Everybody's happy. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Madan Mohan Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagavan ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Today I'm going to
Mother
be...
Radhika Kripa Mataji will be giving the Sunday Feast lecture this Sunday as well, so if you'd like to hear more, please tune in on Sunday. Hare Krishna.